Hello, everyone, and welcome along to this live webinar. Today, I'm joined by Kevin Sefton, CEO of Untied. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Very nice to be with you again today. I can see that I'm not dressed as smartly as I was when that photo in front of us was taken. So I guess that over the course of the last couple of years, we're all dressing down a little bit more.
Me too. Yeah, we look a bit different, but that's fine. So if you're watching the webinar on our YouTube channel, please feel free to subscribe to get more relevant content. If you have questions, just feel free to put them on the chat. And then if it's relevant, we'll answer. If not, we have a session for questions and answers in the end. Or you can raise your hand and we'll let you ask your question. And the agenda for today, the main topic of this webinar is property cash flow, and then how you can file your tax return to HMRC directly using our integration with Untied. So we'll show you how you can set up your cash flow using Lendlord, then how you can review mainly the P&L report, which is the report that is relevant to our topic. And then Kevin will demo how you can submit your tax return online. And then in the end, we'll have a session for questions and answers. Kevin, before we start, if you have a few things to say about, like in general, in terms of Lendlord's cash flow, filing the tax return, we know that Making Tax Digital basically got postponed.
Yes, shall I give a quick sort of 2-minute summary of sort of a lot of things that have changed in the course of tax over the course of the last couple of years? Would that be useful to do now, just to sort of perhaps put a few things in context?
Absolutely, yes.
When we sat down for the equivalent webinar 2 years ago, we were expecting that Making Tax Digital would be live for all landlords with property income over £10,000 from April 2024. HMRC has had significant problems with delivering its project, and the program has been rephased. Where we are as of today, and recognizing that in this country we're likely to have a general election over the course of the next 12 months, is that from April 2026, any landlord with property income over £50,000 will be subject to Making Tax Digital. That threshold moves to £30,000 from April 2027. And there had been a discussion about people who have income below £30,000 coming in from 2028 onwards. If your property income is below £30,000 and the same threshold applies for those people with self-employment income, the government is saying at the moment that that will remain under review, but we would be very surprised if that were to be brought in before 2029 or 2030. So that is so far down the way. A lot can change in the meantime. We also expect that there will be changes in terms of what will be reported. There have been lots of discussions with people who are very close to the program in terms of how we can be simplifying obligations for landlords, especially those people who've got jointly held properties. And the exact details still remain to be sorted, but it is possible that the filing obligations will actually be simpler and may actually only involve reporting of income rather than income and expenses. Again, I think the details, I could go into sort of the likely proposals at the moment, but we've seen with this program over the course of the last 7 or 8 years how much has changed. And I think that speculating now on exactly how this will end up is probably not good use of time. I realize that there are people, including from those who are landlords, who have said they want to be part of the pilot, or is now called a beta, for Making Tax Digital. As Untied, we, along with other developers, have made the decision that we are not onboarding new people to the pilot. And the main reason is that those people who are in it at the moment are not getting the information that they need effectively. And I realize this is being recorded. It's not working. So we've taken the view that until it works for those people in the pilot, there is limited value in bringing more people in, as much as we know people do want to be taking part early, because we think that it may end up being frustrating, and we don't want to be finding that we had to give you a lot of extra support and some of your tax records are effectively misaligned. That will be changing. HMRC are doing a really good job at the moment. They've got a new director of the program who's come in with a lot of energy, and new legislation is likely to be laid over the course of the next few months that will effectively see a lot more focus given to the way that Making Tax Digital will work, what the timelines are, and we've got higher confidence in the beta, which is going to be unveiled for next year. So watch this space. I'll come back to you on that. There are a couple of other changes, though, to the tax system, and I'm just flagging them because this is for the tax year that we're in at the moment, 2023 to 24. When we do the demo in a moment, we're going to be looking at filing for the last tax year, the one ended the 5th of April, 2023. But in the current tax year, there have been some changes through the succession of budgets that we'll all be familiar with. Among them are reductions in the dividend allowance. So if you have dividends that you receive, it might be that you've got a company that you're receiving dividends from that is your company. We're seeing reductions in the dividends allowance, so just be aware of that. That will result in higher taxes on dividends that you may receive and other investments as well. And the second thing is that the threshold at which the personal rate is being the personal allowance is being reduced, that is also falling. So there are other changes as well to some of the threshold and some of the bands. So it may be that whereas in the past you weren't paying tax at certain levels, you will be, and you'll be paying higher rates of tax. I'll give more information talking about the changes on this call. It's probably not particularly helpful if people are taking notes, but I'll make sure that that information is circulated. So just be aware that some of the things that you've been aware of in the past are changing. And a couple of other just final things I'll throw in. We're seeing at the moment a lot of people who are receiving emails from HMRC because someone has tried to access their government gateway account. This is the sort of thing that comes from time to time, especially around tax filing season. HMRC are aware of it. If you do get an email with a code, ignore it and don't respond to a follow-up email that you may get saying, we're HMRC, click here just to verify your details, because that's effectively a phishing scam, which we're seeing at the moment. I just want people to be aware of that. I'm also going to just flag something for anyone with children on the call who may be receiving child benefit. There is something, there's a tax charge effectively for people who have higher incomes and receiving child benefit. And there are various ways that you can be managing that. One of those ways is you can say, well, we're just not going to register for child benefit, and then you don't claim the allowance at all. The second one is that you register, but then you don't actually take the money. And the third one is that you take the money and then you deal with it on your tax return. If you are someone who has chosen just not to register for it at all because you think, well, I'm not going to be paying any tax anyway, the suggestion, and I emphasize that I don't give advice, we're not allowed to give tax advice, but for many people, the best thing would be that you do register and you don't take it. And the reason is that if you're not registered for it, this could have implications in terms of sort of benefits in the future. So the suggestion is that you might be best off registering for that and then not taking that. You might be receiving communications from HMRC around this and from others, but just be aware of that. And I guess sort of a final thing, there are lots of people advertising that you can get money back, PPI, if you work from home, all sorts of stuff around that. If you are seeing these adverts, just beware. There are probably things that you could be doing for free on HMRC's website or through us, included as part of your subscription. And some of these are quite aggressive with their pricing and there are various things going on around that. So beware around that. We'll talk a little bit about the filing obligations for 21-22, but I can't see any questions, but perhaps what would be quite helpful for me to know is for this time next year, is that sort of update useful or not? So that sort of feedback I think will be helpful. But lovely to see you again.
Thanks, Kevin. So yes, for sure, use the chat if you have any feedback or questions you have, and we can answer them probably in the end. So Kevin, I think that now let's start with the demo. Yes, Steve and Sarah, I see that you have questions, but I just want to getting started with the demo, and then we go into the question, if that's okay. So basically, I will show you first how you set up your cash flow on Lendlord, and then the integration with Untied, and then Kevin will take over and show you how you can actually submit and file your tax return online using Untied. Before I start, we are running a promotion today to our premium plan. So if you want to use Untied or to link your bank accounts, you will need to subscribe to our premium plan, which is £99 per year or £12 per month. And we are running now a promotion. Instead of 30 days a free trial, you can get 60 days. And Sarel will put the information on the chat. Also, we'll put some links to schedule a demo or to apply for a mortgage, remortgage, or bridging finance through Lendlord. And let's start with the demo. Can you see my screen? Yes, perfect. All right. So as you know, Lendlord has three main sections. Invest. This is the place to find properties. This is the QA environment. So 1 second. The invest part of the platform, you can find properties that are now listed for sale from agents. You can find properties from auction houses. You can use our deal analyzer to assess the potential return on each deal. And you can also use our postcode information page to get market data about a given postcode. I will not do it now. It's not our topic for today, but we have on our YouTube channel many videos on that. The finance side, this is the place to find mortgage, remortgage options, live products based on your profile from buy-to-let lenders. And also you can get terms for bridging finance instantly, where Lendlord is the lender. So it's quite fast and easy process. And you can track your application online as well and get notification when the process is getting progress. Now, for the topic of this webinar, how to set up your cash flow first at Lendlord. I will use the testing environment just to start from scratch. So if you just created your Lendlord account, you can start with adding your properties. If you maintain a spreadsheet with all of your properties, you can click on Upload Portfolio CSV. You can see the example spreadsheet, but even if with your spreadsheet, just if you apply those rules, you can map your fields to the platform fields and then upload all the properties at once. Or you can just click on Add Property and start adding your properties to the platform. You can see you have many sections, but there are no mandatory fields. So you can start with some basic information and then tweak it after that and add more details. So for this example, I would put the purchase price, the current property value. You can use our online estimation, which is also part of the premium plan if you want to do more than 3 a month, to get an estimation about your property value, the purchase date, and the monthly rental income. The ownership, we basically support more than one owner to a property or a company ownership. So let's do just one for now. And then the mortgage details. You can put the lender, the start date of the mortgage, the end date. But just for our example, I will put the current mortgage balance and the rate. Let's say it's interest only, that's 4%. That's fine. So after that, you can add many other details, and any due date that you put on here, you will receive a notification before the due date to your email. If you use our mobile app, a push notification, and you can also watch it on the sidebar here to get all the due dates that needs your attention. Then click Save. And the next thing will be to set up your tenants and tenancies. But you can see here that the summary basically will start to being populated with data. As long as you add more properties, you can apply different views as well. And you can also apply different filters. You can also manage your documents for each property and also for each owner. And then you can share it with others easily. And we have videos on that as well. Then let's go to my tenants. Let's add our first tenant. Tenancy details. So you need to allocate this tenant to a property. If it's a multi-unit property, you can name the unit and the tenancy period, starting date, the end date, and the rent payment. Let's say it's 500, and the first payment date. You can add also some security information. Click Save. Now the platform will create the payment schedule for you, but of course you can tweak it. For instance, if you have a pro rata payments, you can add payment as a first payment, or you can edit the first payment here. And then you can either approve the payment schedule, or this is something new that we've just launched, is you can invite your tenant to their own dashboard. So you can share documents with your tenants, they can review the payment schedule and get notifications before they need to pay the rent. And they can also report maintenance issues from Lendlord, and you will get notified. So it's a very powerful tool. But for this example, I will just click approve. So now we have our property, we have a tenant. I will go to the cash flow section. So the best, I would say, practice is to link your bank account, and then you can retrieve all the transactions, and the platform will retrieve your transactions in a secure way every 24 hours. So, and you can apply automatic rules. Or you can, on the profit and loss page, you can either link your bank account or link your zero organization, or define recurring income and expenses, which I personally don't recommend. The best place to manage your transactions is from the transactions page here. And here you can either link your bank accounts or accounting software, or upload a CSV file spreadsheet with all of your income and expense transactions. Or you can edit also manually, or you can scan receipts as well. Very valuable from your mobile to scan the receipts and upload the data to Lendlord. If you want to link your bank account, it's part of our premium plan, and you just need to click on link account. We use Plaid as an open banking provider, which is regulated by the FCA, and Lendlord is approved by the FCA to be an agent of Plaid. Then you just need to select your bank. This is a test environment, don't worry, it's not my real credentials. Basically what happens now, Plaid redirecting you to your bank account website. Here you will need to put your credentials, but it's fully secured, encrypted, and Lendlord has no access to your credentials. We just get a read-only access to your bank account. And then you need to start retrieving transactions. You can take it 1 month back, or the last financial year, and you can also do it in batches. Then what will happen next is every 24 hours, the platform will retrieve your transactions, and you will get this wizard to allocate the transactions every day. You can ignore the descriptions. This is a test environment again. So when you get a transaction, you just need to allocate the property. You can categorize the transaction. And if you expect to get these transaction every month, just click on recurring transaction, and the platform will create a rule for you to allocate it automatically in the next time it will appear on Lendlord. And then you can also split transaction. We have tutorials on all of that. I will not show you how you can do it now, or you can schedule a demo with our team. But split transactions is powerful if you get the net rent from your property manager and you want to split it to the full income from the rental and then the management fee. So you just need to click split transaction and split the transaction. Then you click allocate, you will receive the next one. Again, you can use the categories. If you're not happy with our categories, you can just click edit and change the name, change the color, or delete this category, or click on the plus icon to add new categories. And then you just go one by one, allocate everything. You can click on handle it later from the transactions page because this functionality is available from the transactions page as well. Just the wizard is an easier way, I would say, to do it. And okay, so once you get an income, let's say for this example, it's a rent, I will mark it as a recurring transaction. Then you select the property, and you can also select the payment from the tenant. So basically, this is for November 2023. And you can also categorize income transactions as well. I click allocate. And this I will handle after that. And in the transactions page, you can see all the transactions that just allocated. You can also see your bank account and the current balance. And then on the profit and loss page, you will see that you already have income and expense on your portfolio, and you can use the filters if you want to just look at the specific properties. The expenses breakdown is basically a report. I think it was November, with the breakdown of your expenses per category. You can also upload receipts here. And the general P&L, this is the P&L report, which will be used when you are going to file your tax return. So this is the best practice to set up your cash flow. Define add your first property, then add tenants on my tenants page, review your payment schedule, and then link your bank account or upload a file or do it manually to start tracking the transactions. And then you can review the reports on an ongoing basis. You can also review the interactive report, which will provide you a high-level summary of your portfolio, and you can go property by property and see the metrics if you manage the entire cash flow on Lendlord. Then the next thing, so let's say that you manage your cash flow for the entire financial year, and now you want to file your tax return to HMRC. And this is basically the place that we use Untied. Let's see if we have, if you have any questions until that point, feel free to ask. I will use another demo account for that. So the way you can file your tax return is either from the profit and loss page by clicking on File Tax Return, or from the reports page, you will see the same button. So you can select the last financial year. If your financial year basically has different dates, you can manage it from your settings page. So on the settings page, you can define your financial year start date and end date. And then let's go back to the reports page. I selected the last financial year. I click on File Your Tax Return. And then I will get the quick wizard just to mark where are the mortgage interest tracked, which category. So if it's an interest only, basically the mortgage costs will be the mortgage interest. But let's say that you have a mortgage product that you pay capital and interest together, then you will need to manage it on the transactions page, on the profit and loss page, just to separate the mortgage capital repayments and the mortgage interest repayments, because this is important when you file a tax return, and I believe that Kevin can elaborate more on that. But when we go to your demo, Kevin, and then basically in this case, I just mark the mortgage costs as my mortgage interest because my product is interest only. I click proceed. Now I will see summary of one of my properties with the income, the mortgage interest, and the other expenses. It's important to review it at this point, because if it's not accurate, just go back to the transactions page on the profit and loss page and tweak the data. And then click proceed. And it will take you to Untied. If you are new to the integration with Untied, it will ask you to create an Untied account. If not, you will use your password, and then you will stay at Lendlord, but you will see the user interface of Untied. And at this point, Kevin, I think I will over to you to demo how it looks from the Untied aspect. In terms, by just one thing, what happens now is that Lendlord took the summary of your P&L, sent it to Untied, and then at this point, Kevin will show you how you can use Untied to file your tax return, and it will be embedded into your Lendlord account. You don't need to switch or go to a different page. All right, yes, Kevin, so over to you. I think you should be able to share your screen.
Thank you. So it says you've disabled my participant screen sharing. So if you can enable that, that would be good. A couple of things which
should try now.
I guess sort of are worth mentioning for people who aren't aware. The deadline for filing your tax return for 22-23 is the 31st of January 2024. You will also need to make payments, and we can be talking about sort of the payment side separately. One other thing which I guess I'm just going to throw in there for those people who don't report at the moment directly against the tax year period. HMRC is going through an initiative called Basis Period Reform, which effectively is requiring people to be reporting on their business or property income that they make during the course of the tax year. So historically, there have been different ways that you could be defining what your business year is, and you have been paying tax against your business year with various adjustments associated with that. But HMRC are now moving to a new basis, effectively, where you're going to be taxed on what you're earning during the course of the tax year. Lots of discussion whether that is a simplification or not, but I just want you to be aware of that. If you're interested, Google Basis Period Reform, and you'll find all sorts of information about that. I'm about to play a little bit of Jeopardy, because I'm going to be trying to pick up at exactly the same point that Aviram was in terms of his screen. So if you can see my screen now, then let me know.
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. So the next thing that needed to be done was to enter in the code, which would have gone to your email. So I'm entering in the code, and hopefully that will work. And here we go. This is taking me into Untied. And I'm just going to hide a couple of things. You can see all of this information is being brought in here. Aviram touched on the interest. So over the course of the last couple of years, there have been changes in terms of the way that you can be deducting property interest. This needs to be reported in a specific part of the tax return. Just a reminder that interest, you can get some sort of tax relief on the interest that you're getting, but you can't on your capital repayment. And that's why, well, the capital repayment works actually when you sell the property. But that's why that needed to be separated in the previous section. So I'm just going to change how this is displayed. So you can see, hopefully, all this information here. I'm just going to be importing all of this into Untied. So we've got all sorts of details here that's being imported into Untied. And make sure that we are looking in the right tax year. We'll come on to this in a little bit. But you can see if someone has got payroll income, then that would be reported here. You put the information from your P45 or P60, employer's name, and various other things, and that then will be added as well. If you've got other income sources, it might be that you've got self-employment, then that could be included too. But for the time being, I'm just going to say that's that. You can see all of this has been brought in, and we've now got the summary of the rental income and the expenses included here. I mentioned dividends. They can be added to the tax forms on the left-hand side, but assuming that is as it is, and just reminding there may be people on this call who have EIS or SEIS or VCT investments, they can be added again, tax forms on the left-hand side. When you're ready with all of that, you can then submit your tax return. There are two ways you can be submitting your tax return. One of them is using your government gateway credentials, which you may have to hand, but otherwise you can do something called Express Submit. All you need to do is send us two forms of ID, one with a photo, one with your address, just over email. We then enable you for Express Submit, and that lets you file to HMRC without needing to enter another password or anything. You can just click Submit. So I've enabled Express Submit here. If you've already filed a tax return, then you might want to be making an amendment, so you can make changes after you've filed. A really important thing just to be aware of, don't tick this if you haven't already filed a tax return, because if you tick this right at the very beginning, then it doesn't actually register as a tax return within HMRC systems, and you've got an issue sort of around that. And then you've got some contextual questions here. So here we're seeing if your income is greater than £50,000, we've got the child benefit higher income charge that we were talking about. And then maybe other things that get asked at this point. This box here, any other information, is for you to be able to provide something if there's some other information you want to be advising to HMRC. And at the bottom, you can add attachments too. I'm not going to do this. I'm simply going to tick to say that I'm happy. Yes.
Sorry for interrupting you. The chat was disabled, but now it should be okay. So if someone wants to put in a question, try it now. Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, super. Thank you. A couple of things. Just to be aware that this is submitted against your UTR, unique taxpayer reference. So make sure that that is right. And I suggest that you do tick initially just to do a test and live submission. This is just a test where HMRC verify the calculations, any issues get identified, and then you can fix them before actually doing the full submission. I'm only going to be submitting a test because we don't want to be submitting Sorel's real tax return. But let's just hit submit. The data is going to HMRC, they're verifying the calculation, and then we should get a response. And there we go. So that effectively is a tax return that we've submitted. In real life, you would then go on and you would submit the live return, and that would then be filed. If you want to see your tax filings, you go to tax filings on the left-hand side. And a couple of things just to be aware of here. You can spot here if it was a test submission or an amendment. So remember, you need to have within the tax year something which is not an amendment in your first submission. And when it is a real tax return, you'll get a reference here, which is called an IR mark. So that's a long string. To pay your tax, just tap on payments, and that will then analyze how much you will be paying to HMRC. Once you file a real tax return, that will give you a full tax breakdown of the amount that needs to be paid when. This wasn't a full tax return, so that's why we're just going straight to this page here. I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to then be able to look at the chat, and maybe we can navigate some of those questions, Aviram.
Yeah, I think we have a few. So Sarah asked, what amount is a higher, I believe, like you can say that it's a higher income. I don't know if you understand the question, if you want.
Yeah, Sarah, that might be in relation to the higher income child benefit charge. So that would be £50,000 income. I can provide a little bit more information, but that is effectively as if one person in the relationship has got income over £50,000, then you're going to find that you're going to be subject to that. If it is about the rates of tax, a couple of things to be sort of aware of. You've got the higher and additional rates and thresholds for that, but also once you hit £100,000, your personal allowance is basically being reduced, and that can have a significant impact on you. So effectively, you're being taxed at a very high rate, typically over 60% for every pound that you're earning above that sort of level. Mark's asked about limited companies and limited company tax reporting. I realize that many people have incorporated and have limited companies. We don't support limited companies. And I realize that we had said previously they were on our roadmap. We have spent, just to sort of put in context the amount of effort we put into making tax digital, from our point of view, that's been around about 10,000 hours of effort around that. With hindsight, if I'm being true to myself, I would probably have said that that might have been better spent doing some of the limited company stuff. Limited company reporting is also going to be changing slightly. We expect over the course of the next few months. At the moment, there are ways to be filing directly with Companies House. Going forward, that is probably going to be requiring software. We might be able to support that, but in terms of the tax side, that's not something we're doing at the moment. I can see the question as well from Steve in terms of the making tax digital for income tax threshold. That is per individual. So what I didn't show you is that within Untied, you can add additional costs if you haven't included them already within Lendlord, and you can split them. So if you've got a 50% ownership with a partner, then you can allocate it by 50%. If you've got an agreement and it's not 50-50, it's 80-20, whatever it might be, then you can be identifying that in that particular way. If you have a relationship with a spousal ownership, co-ownership, joint ownership, then that would normally by HMRC be assumed to be 50-50. Otherwise, there are more flexible ways to be doing that. But the £30,000 threshold is on an individual basis. Tony's asked about previous year losses. So there is a way that you can be within Untied, taking account of losses from previous years. If you click on the property form, which I'm not sharing my screen at the moment, there's other information that you can add, including losses brought forward that you might be that you might want to be claiming effectively on that. So I'm just trying to see if there are other things.
There's a question for me, I think, from Thelma on Lendlord. Can you connect more than one bank account to Lendlord? The answer is yes. Currently, with our premium plan, you can connect and integrate unlimited bank accounts. So yeah, so it's not a problem. And I think we have a question also from Megal. Is it possible to get the recording? Yes, definitely. We will send the recording of this video. It will be also available on our YouTube channel, hopefully tomorrow. So you can revisit the recording and watch it again. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah.
I can also see a question from Tony. So I hadn't seen about CapEx and revenue costs. We can't give advice, so I know that might be a little bit disappointing. But if you are going through the buy, refurbish, refinance, rent sort of approach, then that might be something where you can either look at the HMRC guidance, which in many cases is actually very good, or get professional advice if the sums are worthwhile to be doing that. So I'd love to be able to say we could give advice, but we don't give advice. We're not able to do that. And for anyone listening to the recording, again, I just need to emphasize that as well.
All right, so I think we're good with the questions. If you have any other question, see Stella, you raised your hand, and Sarah, I think you already asked. Stella, if you can unmute yourself, I don't know if it's available, you can ask the question. If not, you can put it on the chat. In the meantime, I will remind you that we are running promotion for the attendance of this webinar, so you can start 60-day free trial of our premium plan. Just click on the link /premium that Sarel put on the chat, then click add coupon and put the Untied free 60, and you will get the option to start 60-day free trial instead of 30. And I see Stella raised. Let me see if I can ask you on mute. Let's try now, Stella. I don't know.
Do you want to try Tafadzal?
Okay, we have the question now. Okay, it's been really useful to have employment data flow automatically from HMRC into Untied. Are there any plans for bank? Okay,
Steve, that's a brilliant question.
1 second. Yeah. Okay, go ahead now.
So, just to say, we can bring employment data. The way that HMRC record interest data is not good enough for it to be worthwhile, and I'll explain what I mean by that. For interest and dividends, we can only get a total. We can't get the breakdown, and we think that's actually quite frustrating and unhelpful, because if someone's got, let's say, 10 investments, what you really would value, I think, is seeing the precise investments which are included and the ones that have maybe been missed off. You can identify and then plug those gaps. But being able to bring in totals, I don't think will meet what anyone wants. And it would involve different sort of ways to actually bring the data in. But from analyzing it, we want HMRC to be giving us more of an analysis before we actually bring that data in. I would be very happy to explore that offline, just to make sure that that assumption is correct. I think Tofadzal was about to ask a question.
Yeah, so if you can ask it now. Yeah, all right, yeah. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, hi. Thank you both. That was really quite helpful, actually. I use the Lendlord platform quite a lot, so to be able to integrate it with your system sounds quite interesting. My question is around managing multiple properties through this system, and I'm talking in the order of 20 plus. Does your system support that? And is there sort of advice available specifically through one of your customer service representatives or something like that? Cheers.
I don't know if that was for me or for Avram. I think I should also be pointing out, and this might disappoint you, Tafadzal, is the filing obligation for HMRC changes when you hit higher income, sort of £85,000 generally higher. So we normally only support people who've got aggregate income from property under £85,000. So it might be that actually your portfolio is significantly large, that it's more than that. And I realize that on this call, we wouldn't necessarily be talking about specific income levels. But in terms of multiple properties, how we handle it, I think a lot of that would be handled anyway within Lendlord. That would then be reported through Untied. But if there are specific things, we have an active service desk that manages sort of the questions. You might not always like the answers that we give, but we try and aim to be highly responsive in exactly the same way that Lendlord is.
Yes, and of course we also have like the customer service, like you can use the chat box or you can schedule a demo, and Sarel will put the link to schedule a demo. All right, do we have any other question? Sarah or Stella, if you still have questions, you raised your hand, feel free. And okay. Okay, Mark, what is Untied currently focused on in terms of development now and the medium term?
So making tax digital is still where we are. I mean, we've had people in the pilot since 2020, so more than 3 years. And making tax digital will be part of it. I think that we need to understand in terms of HMRC exactly where they're going. What I would probably say is that we are less likely in the future to be making developments until we're absolutely sure of what is required. and that's really sort of being focused on different things. I know I'm not giving a specific answer around this in terms of sort of landlord side. I think that we would possibly find ourselves doing something which is for limited companies, but I'm waiting for something that will actually give us some clarity on that. So, Mark, it's a good question because you want to know where what the direction is of our software. If you'd asked me 3 years ago, and we did talk 3 years ago, effectively, Making Tax Digital would have been very much what we were building to and what we'd expected to be live. That's clearly not happening. But we're keeping a very close eye on what HMRC are doing. And at the moment, that's probably 2 or 3 meetings a week that we're doing in different ways to talk about that. So that's probably not necessarily the answer that you wanted, but also we're listening to see what people want. And hopefully also with the understanding that what you want and what others want may not necessarily be aligned, but it's just about making sure that we do listen to our users.
Thanks, Kevin. And I got some questions like to show how you can apply the 60-day coupon. Let me share the screen quickly. So from your Lendlord account, just go to settings and then click upgrade, or use the link that Sarah put on the chat. It was basically / premium here, and then click on add coupon. Then you can put the coupon Untied free. Should be available by the end of today, and then click apply and see you get now 60-day free trial. You need to pick the plan. Is it the annual plan or the monthly plan? You will need to put your credit card, but there are no charges during the 60-day, and you can cancel at any time. And the premium plan basically includes many features, not just the anti-regression, of course, the link of bank accounts, unlimited postcode information, searches, unlimited property rent value estimations, upload unlimited documents, property watch list, sourcing alerts, refurbishment works plan generator, and more. Invoice scanning, AST generation, generator use, and many others. So basically, it's very valuable. So just take advantage of the 60-day free trial. And let's see if we have any last questions. No. So let me summarize this webinar. It was very helpful, Kevin. And hopefully we can do another one next year, or even before the end of the next financial year, perhaps in April. There is okay, question from Peter. Do you need to scan an invoice if you if you link bank account, if I understand correctly, if you use bank account? I think it's very up to you. I think, Kevin, you don't need to submit invoices.
Yes. So you don't need to submit invoices. You don't need to attach them within Lendlord or within Untied. What you do need to do is you need to retain evidence for a period effectively up to 7 years. Different people do that in different ways. Some people just use their bank account as their primary source of data, but they keep the paper receipts just in a box somewhere so they can be found if necessary, but they don't even but to map the receipt to the statement, provided you can get back to the original evidence, then that's going to be sufficient. Some will take photos, put them in a Dropbox, whatever it might be, or iCloud. There's also no specific definition of what evidence is required. So for some things, it may be that you actually don't have a receipt or whatever, but if you've got other evidence and so on, that will cover that. So that, I guess, is sort of a fairly liberal approach in this country in terms of the evidence that you need.
All right. Okay. So thank you, Kevin, and thank you everyone for joining this webinar. And we will see you in the next one. Thank you very much.